Hello everyone and welcome to another Get the Word video, and today we want to discuss, can kingdom citizens be a part of politics? Now we know that here in the United States you have your main parties of Democrats and Republicans, and across the world you have many other political parties that run their government or are part of their government. But should kingdom citizens actually claim these names? Should they be a part of these groups? Should they support their ideas? We're going to get into it right now. Stay tuned. So first, let's define politics. What exactly is politics and how it relates to government? So right here, politics are the activities associated with the governance of a country or other area, especially the debate or conflict among individuals or parties having or hoping to achieve power. So we see right here that it says that politics are the activities associated with the governance of a country. Now we know from scripture that the scripture actually says that Yeshua, Jesus, actually brought his own government here into the earth when he came. And we also heard Yeshua talking about kingdom a lot. Kingdom this, kingdom that, and kingdom the other. So we know that the Father has his own government, which we will get into that shortly. But based on this right here, we see that politics has to do with basically the influence in government, people's influence in government. Right here we have that politicians help dictate government mandates. So we know that when you go and vote for different political parties or different politicians that are trying to run for certain offices, they have their own ideas or methods or ways that they want to make into law or pass into law that will help govern a particular city, state, or country, whatever office that they're running for. So we see that politics really has to do with the governing of people. So we know that the Father really cares about the governance of people also. He has his own rules and regulations that kingdom citizens, people who are born again, he has rules and regulations that he wants them to live by. So we see that they're starting to be both. We have the rules and regulations and laws that politicians are trying to bring into a worldly government, and you have the rules and regulations that the Father wants to bring into his people that are part of his government. So we're going to get into more of that right here. The kingdom has its own government. In Yahshua, Isaiah 9:6, it says, "For a child is born to us, a son is given to us, and the government will be on his shoulders. His name will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Mighty Elohim, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace." So we see right here that this is talking about Yeshua, Jesus, who is going to come to earth with the government upon his shoulders. Yochanan John 18:36 says, "Yeshua, Jesus answered, my kingdom is not of this world. If my kingdom were of this world, then my servants would fight, that I wouldn't be delivered to the Judeans. But now my kingdom is not from here." So we see right here the Messiah was coming to the earth with his own government. But also from the scripture from Yochanan, he's saying that his kingdom, his rule is not a part of this world. His government that he has is not exactly ruling the world right now, because they have another party in power. They had their own king, they had their own Caesar in power. So he's basically saying that his government and the government that was in the world at that moment is not the same. A kingdom has its own government, it has its own laws, it has its own rules. Just like back in the Tanakh or the Old Testament, when the Israelites were being brought out of Egypt, the Father gave them their own set of rules to follow. He gave them what people call the 10 Commandments, but it's the 10 covenant laws to govern a nation. So he already gave them a set of rules and laws and regulations. So we know that the Father has his own way of doing things that is separate from the way the world does things. So with knowing that the kingdom of heaven has its own government, that if we say we're a part of, we have our own rules and regulations that we live by, then what do we call ourselves? We see that in the world's government, if people believe certain ideas or they hold true to certain beliefs, they call themselves certain things. Some people call themselves Democrats, some people call themselves Republicans, some people are socialists, some people are lobbyists. All these different ideas that people have, they identify themselves with a certain name. So what are kingdom citizens to identify themselves as if they belong to the Father's government that he said that he's trying to bring, that he brought to the earth, and that we're supposed to be a part of? Corinthian bet 2 Corinthians 5:20 says, "We are therefore ambassadors on behalf of Messiah, as though Elohim was entreating by us. we beg you, on behalf of the Messiah, be reconciled to Elohim or God. So right here, we're seeing that it's saying that we should call ourselves ambassadors. Well, what's an ambassador? Because an ambassador, we know, is a political term. It's a government term. So what exactly is an ambassador? An ambassador is an accredited diplomat sent by a country as its official representative to, that's just A right there, to a foreign country. Basically, if you was to be a U.S. ambassador, you would be a U.S. citizen that is to go to foreign countries and represent on the behalf of the United States government. All you would speak about is the United States ideas, the United States ways that they want to, impart. You would only talk about their beliefs. You would represent them in every form of fashion. You are basically an extension of that country, and they send you to represent them to different foreign countries. Well, it's the same thing with the kingdom of heaven. We are kingdom citizens. We belong to the kingdom of heaven. Our citizenship is there, and we are here on the earth to represent the kingdom of heaven. So that is why we don't act the way the world acts. We don't do things that the world does. We don't believe the things that the world believes, because our government has its own belief system, has its own laws, has its own way of living that we are to portray here in the earth, so that we can be representatives for that kingdom. So with that in mind, how can we ourselves say that we as kingdom citizens are Democrats or Republicans when there are things that both Democrats, Republicans, lobbyists, whatever you want to call yourself, things that they believe in that don't align with kingdom thinking, that don't align with kingdom ways of living? So we know from the scriptures, the Father is like, look, you can't play both sides. It's either going to be one or the other. You can't say you're this, but at the same time say you're a part of me. You can't do that. So let's talk about this a little more. Here on this slide, it says, we pledge our allegiance to Elohim over man. Messiah Acts 5:29 says, and Kepha, Peter, and the other emissaries, apostles, answering said, we have to obey Elohim rather than man. So there are things that all these different political parties believe in, laws they try to pass and things like that, that us as kingdom citizens, we should not obey. There are going to be things that happen that other people believe in, other people think, they say you should do, they say you should live this way, that we are just not going to do, because we're here to obey Elohim rather than obeying man. So when it comes to these different political parties and their ideas, you can't go with that. So Joshua 24:15 says, and if it seems evil in your eyes to serve Yahweh or the Lord, choose yourselves this day whom you are going to serve, whether the mighty ones which your fathers served that were beyond the river, or the mighty ones of the Amorites in whose land you dwell. But I and my house, we are to serve Yahweh. So we have to pick a side. You can't play both sides of the fence. You can't say I'm a kingdom citizen, but I'm a Republican. They represent two different governments. You can't say you're a kingdom citizen in whatever other political party. They represent two different governments. There are no Democrats, Republicans, lobbyists, socialists, none of that in heaven. So we can't say we're none of that. We're ambassadors for the kingdom of heaven. We obey every Elohim, God, over anything, over anybody, over any belief system. So we have to make sure that everything that we believe aligns with that. So how can we call ourselves something else that has a different belief system? All right, so that's just a quick video I wanted to do to plant some seeds, to plant some thoughts within you, to maybe get you to think, like, can we actually be a part of political parties while at the same time saying that we belong to the Father, while saying that we are part of the kingdom of heaven? The scripture lets us know that you can't serve two masters. You're either going to love one or hate the other, or hate one and love the other. So they can't be both. We have to love him first. We have to love him with all our mind, all our heart, all our soul. Total 100% obedience to the Father. And with that, we want to thank you for watching this video. Hopefully we'll see you guys on the next one. Hopefully that provokes some thought. Shalom.